This is the 350th episode of CloudFocus Weekly for the first week of August in this year, 2020. This episode is titled Stream in Place. CloudFocus Weekly is brought to you by The Permissioner by Arkus. Now rewritten in Lightning, mass, assign, and revoke Salesforce permission sets. It truly is permission sets made easy. Available for free on the App Exchange or go to thepermissioner.com. I'm your host, Jason Atwood, and joining me is the co-host with the most and a long time of no podcasting, Justin Edelstein. Justin, how are you doing?
Good question. I been better. CloudFocus whenever, living up to its name.
Yeah, well, and we're podcasting in the middle of a pandemic, so I think we're doing okay. And we're going to take a break from our normal stuff that we do.
Take a break from our break.
We're going to take a break from our break as this room is very warm. Can't turn on the AC in here because it would catch on the mic. So.
My AC's on. It's going to pop on at some point, and you're all going to hear it, and I don't care.
Oh, okay. I care about you listeners. He doesn't.
Thank you for downloading.
But at 86.5 degrees in here, if I die, just someone call the cops. Someone call COVID police. All right. We're going to do a fun episode since everybody is stuck at home with nothing to do but be at home. We're going to do a stream in place. We're going to talk about all the fun things, go over a list of our 10 from 10 to 1 most favoritist things we're streaming now and watching. We've done this episode a couple times, but this is for all those out there who need things to watch. We're going to talk about it. So I guess I can start with number 10. By the way, we are using our remote. We are socially distancing ourselves for now. Right. Let me start. Actually, you always have to start. I always have to start. All right.
Wait, are we doing this in any specific order? You mentioned order, but like,
I'm going to go.
Do it in any order?
I'm going to go from I'm going to go from 10 to 1. So I have 10 things, and then I'm going to go backwards. So yeah. So start with 10 and go down to 1. Or just list, or just give me one. Give me one.
All right. And mind you, some of these go back. We've been planning this episode for like months.
6 months.
So some of these go back to like when I was having hip surgery and like was not really leaving the apartment. And then they go back to, then that like whole shelter in place thing where I didn't leave the apartment for a long time. So some of these I'm not watching them now. They're like, I watched them. They were good. Maybe you haven't. Check them out. All right. So I'll start with these. I really didn't do this in any particular order. I'm going to start with The Chef Show on Netflix.
Oh, nice. What's that about?
So it's a spinoff of the movie, a John Favreau movie, I think just called Chef or The Chef, something like that, where it's a fictional movie and he plays a chef who like goes off and does a food truck thing. He's like, you know what? I'm done with this whole like she chef stuff and all the critics and all that. I'm going to go do a food truck. He like finds himself. And in The Chef Show, it's with renowned chef Roy Choi. John Favreau does a cooking show with Roy Choi, and they do like a real cooking show. And I love half-hour cooking shows. I grew up on them on PBS, like watching like Yan Can Cook and Julia Child and all that. So it reminded me of that. And Roy Choi was kind of like, I want to say he was the inspiration sort of for the movie because this is his life kind of. He was classically trained French chef, grew up like, or came up through like really classical restaurants and was trained, and then said, you know what? I'm going to go start a Korean barbecue taco food truck in LA, and just became like wildly popular for his food truck scene. And The Chef Show is all about just Roy Choi and John Favreau cooking stuff that is interesting to them. And I find those shows interesting. So The Chef Show.
Nice. I love that it's a show, a reality show about real cooking based on a fictional show or fictional movie. That's a very weird
which was based on the real thing anyway. So it's sort of like the full circle of it all. And that's what I like about it. They're 2 seasons. You can check them out on Netflix. They're really good. I like them.
Nice. Fun fact, my father worked with Julia Childs.
Oh, that is a fun fact.
Yeah, fun fact. and PBS and WGBH. All right, so mine is actually a kudos to you because you gave it to me as a gift. And yes, is Masterclass. So talking about streaming, Masterclass is an online learning platform like all of these, like Pluralsight. I mean, there's millions of them out there, but Masterclass, I guess, is a little bit different in that it's done by celebrities. So you get Ron Howard teaching directing, or Neil deGrasse Tyson teaching about space, or and whatever. There's so many. RuPaul has one. So they're really good. They're time consuming. But I love Masterclass in that it's on all the platforms. So it's on your iPad, it can be on your phone, it can be on your Apple TV, and you can really stream it anywhere you are. And they come in little sections, so you can 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 10 minutes, so you don't have to sit through 6 hours. It's really fun. It's been interesting looking as certainly everything goes virtual now. Virtual learning and virtual learning new things virtually is now becoming, I guess, even more and more important. So check out Masterclass. You can get, I think, monthly or yearly subscriptions. The subscription is pay. I think if you break it down, though, it's in the magnitude of Netflix, Hulu world, and lots of content. And they keep adding new content, which is nice.
Yeah, and they just put a new one up, I think today or yesterday. Looked interesting. I'll have to check that out. It's not the content. It's not as much content for the money. If you're thinking about bang for your buck, it's nowhere near what you're getting with Netflix or Disney Plus or any of those things. But it's different content. So
yeah, it's unique. That content exists nowhere else. Disney, Netflix, Hulu, HBO, sometimes there's overlapping stuff. It's that movie's now over there. I went to try to watch a movie the other day. It's nowhere to be found. So
I
cannot find it. I every streaming it just doesn't exist, and it's a great movie.
I'm gonna name one like that.
All right, go ahead. What's your next one?
Oh, not my next one, but I'll name one like that later. I'm gonna name Don't F with Cats.
Don't F with Cats.
F as in F ampersand CK.
Yeah, I got it.
Say the word. All right. So this is another one of those cool documentaries, again, on Netflix. Reminded me a little bit of, do you remember Icarus? The documentary where it started out let's do this blood doping and see how fast I can go on a bike. And it turned into this Russian doping scandal.
Right.
Well, Don't F with Cats reminded me of that because it's a 3-part documentary series on Netflix that started by going after somebody who, let's just say, messed with a cat in the wrong way on the internet.
Yeah.
And it led to something completely different.
Right.
And it's 3 episodes. They're all about an hour, I think, and is totally one of those, if you're into, that true crime stuff, if you're into weird documentaries about the internet that sort of go one way and then take a left turn and go the other way and then sort of, I don't know, make their way back around. It's a very weird one. But I really quite enjoyed it. I also really love cats. So the Don't F with Cats resonated with me as well.
Nice. You've now named 2 that I haven't seen. So good. These are good. The next for me is a double. So it's a combo. The first is not an original pick, is The Office, which is on Netflix. You can go and watch all the episodes of The Office or everything. And then I'm going to combo it with The Office Ladies, which is a podcast. So it's 2 of the actors from The Office, and every episode they recap an episode. So literally they're going season 1, episode 1, and then they recap the episodes. They go back, they talk about it, they talk about what's in it. And so what's fun is you watch the original episode of The Office, which, you're like, oh, I haven't seen The Office in forever. This is amazing. These are great. Then you go listen to them talk about it. You can watch, you just match up the episodes. Really funny. I mean, and sometimes they get on extra guests, extra people from it, talk about the back stuff, talk about the storylines that are going on in the back, talk about, again, it's gossip around the show. I never did this. I know Game of Thrones always had this type of thing, and it's all these podcasts that lock to shows.
Yeah.
But these 2, and it's retrospective, obviously, because The Office is 10 years ago. They're now doing it now. They actually started it started it before COVID hit, and then there's a point where they're like, okay, now we're remote, now we're just like we're doing. So The Office, and then The Office Ladies, which is a podcast found on any podcast world, wherever you want, find it somewhere.
Oh, I didn't know that we could just throw a podcast into here because
yeah, why not?
I would have thrown just a straight up podcast in here. Can I do a bonus pick podcast?
No, you could just pick one it's streaming, anything that streams. So
All right. Well, I'm going to keep going. I've been very Netflix heavy so far. I'm going to stick with it. Do another Netflix show. Found this show during the lockdown. It's really fun. It's called The Repair Shop.
Okay.
Have you heard of this one on the Netflix? There's so much on the Netflix.
So much
these days. So it's a British show called The Repair Shop. It's about, I'd say each episode's about 30 to 40 minutes, somewhere in there. And people bring these old antique things. They could be clocks. They could be like old vases or like really nice pieces that are like shattered and need to be put together. Basically, it's stuff that used to be really cool and needs to be fixed.
Okay.
And the repair shop is full of experts that can fix any darn thing. And it is so cool. The intricacy that they get into, the creativity that comes with solving these problems that walk in their door. Like, they don't know what's walking in there. And all of a sudden, here comes this vase in like 82 pieces. And it's like, okay, let's fix that. And like, here's this old train toy that was from like 1912 or something. Let's see if we can get it to work with steam power and let's upgrade it or whatever. It's a really interesting show. And they fix these things that you look at them and you're like, how are you going to do that? And then within the half hour, TV magic, it's fixed. Fascinating. And I quite enjoy. So another like sort of documentary, sort of like, I don't know, thing on Netflix. I have to open my horizons. I'll get there. Just
eventually.
I'm starting here. I'll get to the more fun stuff.
I'm doing like, self-enablement. And my next one is going to then shame you some more, which I hope you've seen. Don't this.
Shame me.
I'm shaming you. I'm stream shaming you.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm going to shower shame you.
Oh, wait, what?
I see.
The next, oh God, I'm sweating. The next one is for me on Netflix, a Netflix original. They landed based off her biography, which I have not read, but is on my list to read, is Becoming, which is the Michelle Obama book. And
can I stop you right there?
Documentary. Why?
I'm so aggravated with Michelle, and I love Michelle, but I'm aggravated with Michelle.
Okay, you remember this is not a political podcast, so
this is not political.
Okay.
I'm annoyed because I want to listen to Michelle's podcast. It's only on Spotify, and I don't use Spotify, and that's annoying to me.
Yeah,
podcast.
This is happening. I mean,
I don't like it.
Joe Rogan's going over.
I don't like it at all.
First of all, just don't call it a podcast. Call it a show. Call it a streaming show.
Call it a podcast. Exactly. Right. If it's a podcast, it's open and free to everyone wherever.
It should be. Come on. It's like saying Masterclass is a podcast. Well, it's no, it's not a podcast. It's whatever. I totally agree. But anyway, Becoming, I wouldn't be annoyed by her. She's making money. That's her, it's her income. Becoming, it's on Netflix. You have to pay for it. But it's a great, again, not going to get into political things, not even close, not going to go around it. But in a time where you want to remember some good times, watching this show, which is it's a documentary about her going on tour, basically, and the book tour. So it's just great. Obviously, Barack's in it, and the kids, and her, and a lot of celebrities, because she goes from city to city on this crazy tour, kicking off her book. Really fun documentary. You fall in love with her all over again. That's all. And it's sad for many different reasons. All right. What's your next
podcast? Is supposed to be like these conversations, long form conversations with people. The first one being with Barack. And I was like, oh, I'd like to listen to that.
See, but like, that might get me to go that, let alone to be like, oh, maybe if Joe Rogan's there, and like, if you not add up enough, it's maybe like, well, maybe this is why I would have Spotify, because I get content that I can't get anywhere else. So it's smart move by them.
My first non-Netflix pick is an Amazon pick.
Okay.
and it's called Once We're Brothers. It's a
Okay.
movie. It's a movie that was supposed to be making its way through like the circuit right now of all those film festivals. It did get its way into, I think, a few that were early in the year, maybe Toronto or something. I don't know. Don't want to pretend to know that stuff. But it's a documentary about my favorite band, The Band.
Yep.
But from the perspective of Robbie Robertson. And oftentimes when you read or see documentaries about the band, they're from the perspective of Levon Helm, which is just different opinions on the same thing. And it was nice to see Robbie's take on it, because oftentimes he is vilified. And he comes off well in this. And it was nice to see him come off well. It was nice to see everybody come off well. And for those who are a fan of the band, I recommend this. And I would also just recommend it for anyone who works in teams, because the band was a collective. There were 5 individuals that on their own were nowhere near as good as the sum of their parts. So anyone who works on a team and want to get into some of those dynamics, it's all there in this documentary to talk about how they came together, what they did, how they made each other better, etc. It's an uplifting story. So Once We're Brothers, you have to buy it on Amazon because it's not yet streaming on for those who have Amazon Prime, because it's really supposed to be in the theaters right now.
Nice. My next one, just moving along. This is a weird one, but I think it's fascinating, and I know lots of people are watching. There's only, I guess, there's one platform that I can think of. I guess Spotify does this a little bit, but that shows you how many people have watched something, right? Which is YouTube. YouTube is the only thing that I know that when you log in, you can look at, oh, look, 10 million people have seen this video or not. Which we might do a whole episode about in the future, but I'm a little bit obsessed with Elon Musk and his adventures in world, but one of his companies is called SpaceX, and they're one of the first, they are now the first commercially run or commercial non-US, non-government to put people in space, but in the last 10 years. No, the first one to ever do it, and the first time the US has put someone in space, astronauts in space. They just came back yesterday, actually. They were up at the space station. So it's a private company called SpaceX, and they're doing all sorts of launches. And what's cool about SpaceX is the first company to ever get reusable rockets. So the rockets go up, and then they launch, and then they come back down and they land. They literally land these rockets back down. It's unbelievable. And they put them all on YouTube, so you can watch it, and you can see the mission control, and you can see the different angles, and sometimes they're big missions, sometimes they're not. But basically, any one of the missions you get to sort of watch on YouTube. So the SpaceX launches, you can find the SpaceX channel and you can subscribe to it. And you can rewatch them, obviously, if you missed it. But they're all time of day. But the one that they launched the astronauts was a big deal. I mean, there were millions and millions and millions of people watching because it was a big deal. It's like watching the Challenger, or not the Challenger, or watching the space shuttle launches. It was a big deal. So if you have not seen them, if you have not heard about this, SpaceX is a fascinating company, and what they're doing. Their ultimate goal is to make humans multiplanetary, so we can live on multiple planets: Mars, Moon, and Earth. That's the literal mission of this company, and they've made the rockets reusable, so they can do it much cheaper. So they're actually killing everybody off. So because they're launching once a week, because they can reuse the rockets. They don't have to build $100 million rocket. They can land it for whatever. So SpaceX, super cool. Again, watch it on YouTube. They do a good job. They actually have announcers, and they lead you through it and all the technical terms, and okay, now we're doing separation, and they'll show the separation and all the videos. It's very cool. If you're into space, team up that one with the Space and Technology Masterclass, and you're going to learn a lot. So there you go.
I watched some of that yesterday with the landing, and they had a nice.
Yep.
They had a really long. It's a 2-hour special prior.
Yep.
To then coming on live, where they were on for another like 2 or 3 hours yesterday. I was really watching it. It was a lot of fun, fascinating stuff, and like all the stuff that went into it. And then that pre-show, the 2 hours, they went back to like when the company started, and like a very young Elon Musk and these things he's saying out loud, and you're like, no.
Yeah.
Oh wait. Oh, that's happening. Oh, cool. All right.
Did they show the failure video? They have a video of all the times rockets exploded.
Oh yeah, they showed it. Yeah, they showed like, here was the first attempt. Here was the second one. This one needed to work.
Right. Yeah. There was one that if they didn't do it, that was over, and they basically did it. And if you really are interested in him, his biography is pretty good, and it does talk about SpaceX. But they're doing things now; they're just incredible. Anyway, what's your next one?
Okay. All right, this is going to be the last good one for a little while.
All right.
The rest are going to be garbage till we get to the top 3. The Plot Against America on HBO.
Okay. HBO Max?
Oh, you can find it on any of those HBO platforms, but I guess it's on HBO Max, sure.
This episode is brought to you by HBO Max.
It's on HBO Max, HBO Go, HBO Now, and just plain old HBO on demand. All the places you can find HBO in all their variety of services. But Plot Against America, very special to me. For a couple of reasons. The first reason is my wife worked on it.
Nice.
So when you're watching the credits, you could see my wife's name as the assistant editor. And it's also by David Simon, who's my favorite. For those who've listened to previous streaming podcasts of ours, The Wire always ends up somewhere towards the top, if not number 1 for me every time. And other of his shows have also ended up on this list. The Plot Against America is an adaptation of a Philip Roth novel from 2004. Basically, it asks the question of what if Charles Lindbergh would have won the presidential election with his America First movement in 1940. Which is ripped right from real history, and then did a little twist. Like, all right, let's have this guy win and see what this world would look like through the lens of this family in Newark, New Jersey. I'm going to leave it there. You can imagine it's pretty terrible. The things that would happen if a Nazi sympathizer would have been our president in 1940. We'll leave it there. Also, there is a podcast that accompanied this. So every episode, right after that episode, they would record a podcast the next day, and they're with David Simon, all 6 of them. So they're really good accompaniments to the episodes. He brings a lot to it. They're like 20 to 25 minutes where they break things down, bring in some of the dialogue, and he'll walk through it and all that, which I always find interesting. So Plot Against America on all your HBO streaming platforms.
Nice. Well, we got to speed it up a little bit here. So I'm going to give...
Good thing we're still in the bottom 5.
I'm going to do 2. I'm going to do a double. I'm going to do 2 just because maybe we got to speed it up a little. Right. I'm going to do first. There are 2 that are sort of been out for a while. They both are... one is The Witcher, which is on Netflix. It's for those of us who are lamenting the fact that there's no more Game of Thrones, it's kind of like a way to get that medieval type of science fiction, I guess. Not even science fiction, but like, what is it? I don't even know what the
fantasy.
Fantasy. There you go. So The Witcher is starring Henry Cavill, who played Superman. It's based on a video game, which is always weird. Probably video game, comic, and then goes to be a show. It's really good. The first season, I think they've signed up for another season. It was on Netflix. It's a big rage again 5 months ago. But if you missed it for some reason, you haven't watched The Witcher, go watch it. It's really good. Definitely R-rated, not for the kids, but really, really fun and great special effects, and just a really fun fantasy type of show. And then the other one, sci-fi, so I'll put it in there, sci-fi Picard, which is the Star Trek continuation. So for those of you who on the Star Trek universe, The Next Generation, Captain Jean-Luc Picard was the captain of that, and then all the movies that came afterwards. Anyway, they've rebooted him into his own show. Fun. If you're into Star Trek, it's on CBS All Access. So here you go, another platform. It's a pay platform. it's a great show. Again, if you're anywhere near a Star Trek fan, you got to watch it. It's great. And there's more Star Trek. All the Star Trek is on CBS All Access. So if you're there, you can go back and watch the originals. You can watch every show. So, but Picard, really good. CBS All Access. Those two. Give me two of yours.
All right, I'm gonna give you two, and they're joined. They're garbage.
Good.
They're both on Netflix, and they're both garbage. The first one, The Circle. Man, is this garbage? You're into reality garbage. This is for you. They take people and they put them in like apartments in the same building, but they don't let them see each other. They can only communicate over social media.
Oh, I saw
the same location physically, right. And they can't even really like talk to each other. They just like say things out loud, and then this like I don't know, this bot just sort of types it. It's really awful. And there's a lot of backstabbing and a lot of just craziness when you think of people just, on a reality show about social influencing. Yeah, it's that and better. And then the second one is right along the same lines, although I found this one way more interesting. Love is Blind, another Netflix
the first one that I've actually seen. It's the first show that you brought up that I've actually seen. Right. And that was garbage.
Another total piece of garbage, but super fascinating because it's like, at least the beginning was fascinating. And Messica was just comic relief at every moment. So the premise here is, hey, people, we're going to put you in these pods and you're going to date, but you're not going to see each other. Oh, you can talk to each other, but you can't see each other. And you're going to fall in love and you're going to get married like within like a very short period of time, but you're not going to be able to see each other. You have to like get engaged. Then we'll let you see each other.
Yeah.
And this all happens in like a week.
It's terrible.
And then they go off and like hang out somewhere and there's a lot of infighting and it's basically just a lot of drinking. It's a mess. But lots of funny moments in there. So go for it. Love is Blind.
Love is Blind. Oh, put that at the bottom of your list. God, that was bad. I've given you like real things to watch. Love is Blind.
I've given people so many more entertaining things, and I have 3 more things on my list, and the last 3 are going to be far more entertaining than your last 3. Let's put it that way.
Okay, well, I'll do one, and then just quickly, I might have mentioned this before. Again, another YouTube/podcast. It's called the Artificial Intelligence Podcast, and it's done by Lex Freeman, a professor at, I think he was at MIT, but he's left now. I think he left to go start his own thing. But he has this podcast where he interviews really interesting people, but in always talking about technology and artificial intelligence and machine learning and, again, neural nets. I mean, it's deep, right? Self-driving cars, he flying robots. It's really, really deep stuff. Of course, I found him because I was on one of my, everything Elon. So I found him for that, but he does some incredible interviews. It's very straight up. It's very, he starts and then they just have this conversation. And again, really, really interesting. Always high technology and somewhere around artificial intelligence. So if you want to learn about artificial intelligence, the real thing, not only can you watch this podcast, it's both a video, it's a video on YouTube, but he actually posts all his MIT lectures on artificial intelligence, which I've watched about 5 or 6 of them. And he will teach you about artificial intelligence. So you can kind of like a masterclass, you can take his artificial intelligence course. So super, super cool. Maybe let me do one more. We'll do in pairs.
I was just going to make everyone dumber. All
right, go ahead.
You're just bringing all this.
I know.
Why are you doing that? I'm going to make people dumber. Let's get dumb.
I'm proving the kind of the hosts, like who's the host. It's clear.
All right. Let's get dumb, people. All right. You want one? All right. I'm going to hit you with, in my final 3, I'm going to hit you with 2 of these things are probably the 2 most funny things out there right now. Streaming.
All right. Go ahead. Give me all 3. Just go.
Oh, you want all
top
three?
Yep.
All right. Top three. All right. Well, What We Do in the Shadows is number 3.
Okay.
Holy crap. What a show. It is so funny. You can catch it on Hulu. It airs on FX. And it's actually a spin-off of a movie called What We Do in the Shadows. And it's that The Office style, like documentary style, like sitcom, but it's these vampires and they're literally out of control. there's one vampire who's an energy vampire. He sucks your energy. He's completely out of control. The whole thing's out of control. They have these things called familiars that are like normal people that can live and work with them and like help them out during the day. It's wild. Please, 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 whatever you do, please check out What We Do in the Shadows on Hulu. You will not be disappointed. You will laugh very hard.
All right. We'll go back and forth. I'll do it quick. All right, let's go back. I'm changing it up on this fly. Mine, next one, a double, something I went to and something you can see. So right before COVID hit, I was able to fly to LA for a quick concert, which was the Prince. It's called Let's Go Crazy Grammys tribute. That they did a concert for Prince. It was a Prince tribute concert. They brought all these bands, all these artists. It was amazing being there because they were recording it. So it was a lot of stop and start. They'd bring out a band, do a song, band would go away, bring out another band, do a song, band go away. It was always like clap, 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 applause, applause, applause. It was almost 4.5 hours, the whole thing. And then obviously it was to get it to be a TV show. It's on CBS All Access. So if you're a Prince fan and you haven't watched, it's Let's Go Crazy, the Grammys tribute for Prince on CBS All Access. I think it might be on his YouTube channel, maybe not. I think it was shot for them. It's kind of the last, in actual concerts, it might be one of the last concerts that was actually recorded because we were on the plane and there were people in masks. So we were like, oh, we don't need to wear masks. Wow, how stupid back then. But anyway, great concert if you're a Prince fan. If you're just a fan, there's all sorts of artists, tons of up and coming artists. It's a really good concert. So Let's Go Crazy, the Grammys tribute on CBS All Access.
All right. I checked that out even when it was on TV.
Yes, it was on TV one night.
I recorded it. All right. Number 2, not funny, but probably one of the more watched things during the quote lockdown, The Last Dance, which is the documentary that was shot about the 1998 or 97-98 Chicago Bulls season. So the last season of Michael Jordan, Phil Jackson, Dennis Rodman, Scottie Pippen, basically their last The Last Dance. That's what Phil dubbed it before the season started. And it was a real great 10-part behind the scenes stuff you didn't know, some you did. Really cool, enthralling, like back scenes of Michael Jordan and seeing what he was all about. Wow, was that intense. Really great. Really, really interesting. Now that sports are sort of back, maybe on the back burner, but sports were not back, and this was scratching the itch, and it was really good. I highly recommend. You could catch it on ESPN Plus or Netflix.
Nice. That's on my list of things I want to watch. Mine is, now I'm going to go trash, just total trash. This is my last trash. My number one is going to be weird, but my last trash one is a show that's on VH1, but you can also get it. I think you can buy it on iTunes. It's RuPaul's Drag Race. I've probably picked this before. This is the most enjoyable show. That is a trashy reality show where people dress up in drag in a competition to become, I guess, the queen of drag. And RuPaul, who's one of the best known drag queens out there, is the host and part of the panel. It is very funny. Every age, maybe it's a little on the, it's got some innuendos and stuff. I actually buy it on iTunes so I can so it's explicit because I like to, because they bleep out a lot of stuff, just a lot of the drag terms. Very funny, I think the season's just ending this season. No, that season ended, so you can get the whole season now. Then they have like a celebrity version, and then they have an all-star version. So there's plenty of Drag Race out there if you want it. My child is obsessed with it, my 15-year-old. And then all of her friends are too. So all of her friends watch it, and there's always betting of like who, and they talk about it. She knows more about these drag queens and where they are and where they went and who's this and who had a thing with it. Drag Race, VH1, iTunes, very fun reality show.
All right. We're down to the final one.
What is your
final countdown? Well, it's in a service that we haven't mentioned yet.
Okay.
Apple TV Plus.
Okay, there you go. Oh, I know what this is. Yeah.
A half-hour comedy. The original, there were 8 episodes, and they added a 9th during the quarantine. It's called Mythic Quest.
Yes.
It is extremely funny. Anyone who has listened to me before knows that I'm a huge fan of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, huge fan of Charlie Day, huge fan of Mac, and it's their show. They created the show. They're the head writers, creators, producers, etc. And this is a kind of an office comedy, for lack of a better word, around the sort of the back office of creation of a video game, like a very popular video game, one that what do they call it? First role play, whatever. I'm not a gamer. I don't know.
It's like World of Warcraft. It's like,
sure, whatever you do. Yeah, you go around, you kill people, you do things, whatever. Anyway, the show is fantastic, and they did something extremely smart, which was they came back with a 9th episode, the quarantine edition. And if you were to watch this, you will get to the end of the 8th episode thinking, okay, that was the end of the season. And you'll realize why they needed to do a 9th episode. Yeah. And they did it in quarantine. And because it's an Apple show, they did it all appled up. And it's really impressive because I think it was all shot on iPhones, and they all are wearing AirPod Pros pretty much the whole time. And it's just really, really, really a very well done version of those quarantine episodes, of which, 30 Rock came back with one. I think Parks and Rec came back with one. There were a bunch of comebacks, if you will. But Mythic Quest, watch the whole season. It is awesome. There is going to be a 2nd season. I know that already. Really, really high up there in terms of comedy factor, for sure.
Really fun. Then the only 2 out of your 10 I've actually watched, and that one I've watched. Very funny. I would say it takes a couple episodes because it's a little work to get the characters to actually like the characters. I think it takes 3 or 4 episodes. So give it a couple episodes. Don't just watch one. It takes a couple, I think, to where you're like, oh, I enjoy these people and they're fun, and then you really get to know them, and it gets better.
Do you agree that they needed to do that final episode? After the way that they finished it?
Yeah, I mean, it was good. The final episode's really good. It's really well done with the, again, all doing shots. It's all basically Zoom calls or FaceTime calls, and how they do it together. It's very, very well done. My number 1 is actually the name of a thread, or a messages thread between you and another party. Yes, my number 1 is the thing I've watched the most in the last I don't know, 3 months. It's we call it the Cuomo Show, which was, I think, his 100 days of briefings. He did this is Andrew Cuomo, the governor of New York, which I've heard outside of New York is there's lots of people all over the country watching, and it's my number 1 show. I've watched for at least for that 90-day period. I was watching every day. The show was on at some random time in the morning. It was sometimes at 10, sometimes at 10:30, sometimes 11, 11:30. So I'd watch for his Twitter, and I every day watched that show. It's one show I watched. And again, it's a coronavirus update show. It's clearly not something you'd ever go back and rewatch. I actually watched it on Twitter. So there's a whole nother platform. You could see it online, but I watched it on Twitter, click a little Twitter live stream, and fun when you watch the recap. So if you didn't watch it live, then you get lots of, I guess, whatever the streaming thing is, that you can have comments going. So you can watch the comments flying up, and then the pluses and hearts. So on one side, hearts are flying up, and the other side, comments are flying up. And of course, the comments are all over the place. But that was honestly, I mean, I watched at least 90 episodes of that show every single day. Would not miss it. The Cuomo Show. So again, for those of you, he's still doing them like once a week. I just thought it was where I got my daily information. So, and that is the end of our show. And those are enough picks, so we don't even have to make any picks. That's it.
I'm gonna make a podcast pick.
Oh, okay, throw one in there.
Should I do it? Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
I might have made this before, but it's called Hit Parade, and I really enjoy it.
Yes.
It's from Slate Magazine. You have to pay for it, by the way.
They moved it over?
Well, you have. It's weird. You kind of have to pay them directly for access to the podcast feed.
So not a podcast.
Not a podcast, I guess.
Yeah, not a podcast.
Weird. You have to pay them a subscription, not like Spotify or any of that. You pay Slate Magazine. So it's paid premium content, I guess.
Why can't they just make money on advertising? Why do they have to do this pay thing?
I think, well, actually, they announced it. They said why they had to do it. They said, we're not making enough money during this coronavirus situation through advertising. So if you'd like to keep listening to this, support us and pay for it. Otherwise, we'll just stop doing it.
I'm surprised they didn't go to Patreon and do the Patreon thing. But anyway.
Either way, they started some premium thing, and this was part of the premium thing, and we love it. My wife and I, Sharon, it's our road trip podcast because it's like an hour and a half each time. So it's a good hour and a half that it marches you through somebody's an artist, a musical artist. It's kind of their history of the charts and marches you through well, here's where they hit their number one in 1998 or whatever. Let's go back to 1982 where it all started and just sort of walk you through trends and whatever. I find it very, very, very well done, really well researched. And Chris Malamphy is the host, and I think he's a really good host of a podcast as well.
Yeah, I've listened to, I think, 2 episodes. I have too many podcasts, but it was good. It was a good, they go back and sort of do the history, really build up. It's good podcast. All right. Well, with that, we'll say adieu. We'll say goodbye. We'll be back maybe, I don't know. I'm not even going to promise anything at this point. We're trying to do a GTD summer series. We promised it. So the summer's not over. We can get...
No, we can do that. I think we can pull that off.
I think we can pull it off. So we're going to give that a shot, maybe. Until then, follow at Just Edelstein, at Jason M. Atwood, at Arkus Inc. And we'll be back with more episodes maybe this year. But here's one for you at least. And until then, it's